listening to the Video Game and Nerd Trivia Podcast with Tony D. Video Game and Nerd Trivia Podcast, your episodic dose of trivia covering all things video games and nerdy. Now, here's your host, Tony D.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Video Game and Nerd Trivia Podcast. I'm your host, Tony. On today's episode, we're going to be going over 3 rounds of trivia, and each round will be 10 questions each. And as always, I'll give you the question, then 5 seconds of silence, and then give you the answer. So today's topic will be video game movies. There have been a lot of video game movies throughout the years, so we'll go over about 30 questions. So this is going to be 30 video game movies. So what I'm going to do is I'll ask you a question. Actually, I'll state you some kind of like fact or maybe the plot of that movie, and I'll give you 5 seconds of silence, and then you just tell me the answer of what you think that movie is. So let's get started on round 1. Question 1. Illumination scored a deal with Nintendo to produce this movie based on Nintendo's biggest intellectual property. This is the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Question 2. Allied nations' colonel leads an attack against a drug lord turned insane dictator general. Another note is that this general promised tons of money to his followers, but they were money printed with his image, assuming he was going to be successful in his takeover. This was Street Fighter the movie, the one starring Jean-Claude Van Damme and the late Raul Julia. Question 3. Guided by the god of thunder to enter a tournament held by a sorcerer, a handful of people on a leaky boat are going to save the world. This is 1995's Mortal Kombat. Question 4. A kid tries to find out what really happened to his dad with a furry yellow friend only he can communicate with. This is Detective Pikachu. Question 5. A town is ravaged by a mythical canine creature, and they need to find out who in the town is secretly that creature. This is Werewolves Within. Question 6. The main character joins the Iron Fist tournament to avenge the death of his mother in this 2010 video game movie. This is Tekken. Question 7. Mark Dacascos and Scott Wolf star as brothers in this 1994 street-based video game movie set in the city of New Angeles. This was Double Dragon. Question 9. Tom Holland stars with Mark Wahlberg in this video game-based movie about treasure hunting. This is of course Uncharted. And question 10. Originally supposed to star The Rock, he declined the primary role of John Grimm in this video game movie because he was more attracted to the character of the Sarge. This was Doom. And you can kind of say this movie was doomed because it didn't really do well and got really bad reviews. Alright, let's head into round 2. Question 1. A former concert pianist investigates what happened to her father, leading her to a Thailand crime boss played by Neil McDonough. This is Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li. So unfortunate that this movie wasn't that good. Neil McDonough, he's like amazing. If you watch Arrow, he was Damien Dark. He's such an amazing villain. And you know, if you watch Captain America, he was also Dum Dum Dugan and part of the Howling Commandos. Question 2. Before the tournament between worlds can begin, The sorcerer attempts to kill Earth's warriors with his team of masked ninjas, including an ice-wielding ninja that has a vendetta with a yellow ninja. This is the 2021 reboot of Mortal Kombat. Question 3. Jim Carrey famously stated that this 2022 video game movie would be his final performance before retiring from acting, in which he played opposite a CG lead character. And this is of course Jim Carrey playing Dr. Robotnik in Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Question 4. What video game movie was billed as a supernatural horror film starring Sean Bean and Laurie Holden and Radha Mitchell? And the name of the excessively foggy fictional West Virginia town is also the name of this movie. That is Silent Hill. Question 5. Starring Mark Wahlberg, this 2008 movie was based on a cop video game known for its bullet time mechanics. This is Max Payne. Question 6. The Rock starred as a scientist in this 2018 sci-fi video game based movie in which he takes care of an albino gorilla that grows large from being exposed to a pathogen. This is Rampage. Question 7. Coming off the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, Jerry Bruckheimer was tapped to produce this video game-based action fantasy movie, starring Jake Gyllenhaal as Dastan, a street urchin adopted by a king after showing courage. This was Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time. Question 8. Josh Hutcherson stars in this video game movie based on creepy animatronics in a family entertainment center. This is Five Nights at Freddy's. This is a really interesting franchise because they sell a lot of the stuffed animals from Five Nights at Freddy's, and the target audience for those stuffed animals are kids. Kids would play with those, stuffed animals. Which is kind of weird because this is like a horror type of game, so seemed always a little bit weird to me. But anyway, moving on. Question 9. This was a 2018 reboot of a video game movie franchise. In the reboot, Alicia Vikander took on the role previously held by Angelina Jolie. This is of course Tomb Raider. A sequel was supposed to happen. I really liked the movie and I was glad that it was supposed to happen, but then it got cancelled in 2022 when the rights for the movie and the franchise changed. But supposedly there's a reboot being made right now at Amazon Studios, but Alicia Vikander said she stepped down from the role, so that's kind of unfortunate. And question 10. Set in an alternate timeline where dinosaurs take over, two plumber brothers are transported to this world and need to save a kidnapped royalty in this 1993 movie. This was the 1993 version of Super Mario Bros. Alright, let's move on to the last round here. Question 1. Based on the popular fighting game, this was a 2006 video game movie that starred 3 female leads named Kazumi, Christy, and Tina. They were played by Devon Aoki, Holly Vance, and Jamie Presley. This is DOA, Dead or Alive. Question 2. An emperor leading a group of invaders finds a loophole to invade our world, and he tries to merge ours with his in 7 days. A god turns mortal to join a team of human fighters. Though the movie is the name of a fighting tournament, this movie actually didn't include an official fighting tournament. This was the terrible movie, Mortal Kombat Annihilation. I am a big Mortal Kombat fan and I was so disappointed in this movie. When I saw it as a kid, I didn't know any better, but now I do, and I can't rewatch it without cringing. Let's move on. Question 3. This 2001 3D animated movie was based on a popular Square series and was known to be the first photorealistic animated movie and the most expensive video game movie up to that point in 2010. This was Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. Question 4. It's surprising that this 2003 action horror video game movie was even made, given that the original video game was a zombie light gun game, not really based on an island, but this movie was based on an island. This was The House of the Dead, so it's not even based in the house, so that was just a weird adaptation of that game. It was also directed by, I'm not sure how you pronounce his first name, but I think it's Uwe Boll, and he's directed many video game movies that are not really successful. You might hear a few more movies from him in the next few questions. Question 5. Based on a popular creature hunting video game series, this 2020 Paul W.S. Anderson movie starred Mila Jovovich, Tony Jaa, and Ron Perlman in a world where dinosaurs and other large creatures exist. This was Monster Hunter. Question 6. Uwe Boll directed this action comedy film in 2007 based on the video game of the same name, though it was considered a very, very bad film and a critical and commercial failure. The name of this movie and game refers to the slang term used when someone is becoming extremely and uncontrollably angry to the point of violence. This movie was called Postal. Question 7. David Bowie's son would direct this massive 2016 fantasy movie based on a popular fantasy RPG and RTS video game series, in which the movie never received a sequel because the first movie was too focused on world building. This is Warcraft, and it was directed by Duncan Jones. Question 8. This 2007 video game movie was a commercial failure and based on the RPG Dungeon Siege and starred Jason Statham as the farmer Camden Conread. This movie was called In the Name of the King. Question 9. This 2005 video game movie, also directed by Uwe Boll, starred Kristanna Loken as an unholy breed of human and vampire known as the Damper. This was Blood Rain. And finally, question 10. Actor Timothy Olyphant had no interest in returning to the franchise and stated he only did this 2007 video game movie about an assassin as a means to pay for his new house after the sudden cancellation of his show Deadwood. This was Hitman, the 2007 movie. There was another reboot later called Hitman Agent 47 and Timothy Olyphant was not involved. Alright, hope you enjoyed that episode. There are a lot of video game movies. I remember growing up, I was a 90s kid growing up, and then it was just like pretty crazy to kind of hear about those first video game movies that came out. And over time, it just got more and more popular. And at some point later on, Hollywood actually took it seriously and put more money into it, and we actually finally had some successful video game movies in the past few years. But hopefully you had fun going down that nostalgic road of video game movies. Thank you again so much for listening. And if you like this episode, you like our show, please give us a rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or anywhere you're listening to this podcast. It really helps our show reach more people when there's more ratings and reviews. Again, we're on social media, Instagram at VGNT Podcast 1, Twitter and Facebook just VGNT Podcast, our website's vgntpodcast.com. If you want to suggest any topics for future episodes, go ahead and reach out to us, and I will do my best to make those trivia episodes happen. But until next time, trivia on!